Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick. In this video I'm going to be comparing the Nike Alphafly 3 and the On Cloudboom Strike LS. So the Alphafly 3 and the Cloudboom Strike LS version I think are two of the best carbon plate racing shoes available at the moment. They're certainly two of the most expensive carbon plate racing shoes at the moment. The Alphafly is £285 or $285. The Cloudboom Strike LS is £330 or $330. The On is the lighter shoe. It's 192 grams or 6.8 ounces, whereas the Alphafly 3 is 220 grams or 7.7 ounces. Got an 8mm drop with the Alphafly and then a 4mm drop with the On. So when it comes to the design of the Cloudboom Strike LS, that light spray upper is certainly the most kind of eye-catching part of it. You've got this one-piece sock upper that's attached by a machine to the midsole unit on the shoe. This light spray upper is the reason it's such a lightweight shoe compared even to the normal Cloudboom Strike, and I've found it a really good fit as well, which we'll come on to later in the video. You've got a Helion HF midsole, which is a PEBA-based foam. It's On's best foam, their super foam, and in between two layers of that is a carbon speedboard or carbon plate. Then you've got a rubber outsole with good coverage on the forefoot and the heel there. There's no big midsole cutout on the On, which is a bit surprising because it is such a lightweight shoe. That big cutout is kind of becoming par for the course of carbon shoes to try and reduce the weight. Certainly got a big one on the Alphafly 3 there, which shows off the carbon plate in the middle of the shoe. That carbon plate is sandwiched by two layers of ZoomX foam, as you'd expect with any Nike racing shoe. It's their bouncy PEBA-based foam, and they've got an air zoom pod in the forefoot of the shoe as well to add a slightly more responsive feel in that part of the midsole. Top of that midsole, you've got an Atom Knit 3.0 upper with a little bit of padding around the heel. It's a pretty lightweight upper all round itself, but certainly nothing like the one on the On. You've got more padding at the back of the Nike in particular. Then you've got a fast shot rubber outsole, good forefoot coverage, bit of rubber at the heel as well. It's been pretty durable for me and the grip's been okay. And like I say, you've got that big midsole cutout there to bring the weight down a little bit. So when it comes to fit of the two shoes, I've got a UK 9 in both of them, which is a US 10 in the Nike, a US 9.5 in the On. That's the size I generally use with both of these brands. I've used across all of Nike's racing shoes, and the Alphafly 3 fits me really well. Got no concerns with it at all. You've got a nice snug hold from that Atom Knit upper that creates a comfortable feel, but also one that keeps the foot locked down on fast runs. And there's a nice heel design on the Alphafly 3 as well. Sometimes Nike puts a little thin strip of padding around the back of the shoe, like on the Vaporfly 3, and that does tend to irritate my Achilles sometimes. So I haven't had any of those problems with the Alphafly 3. Just a good, secure hold. And obviously the fit of the On Cloudboom Strike LS is pretty interesting. I've had no concerns with it at all, actually. It's worked really well for me. My foot is held in place well. I've got enough room without having any kind of feeling of looseness or worry about it. Hasn't stretched at all after 150k, this upper either. And in general, it just creates a really nice, barely there feel on the foot that is great for racing because you have got enough security, enough lockdown there. I have anyway, and I've got quite a narrow foot, and I haven't found that I've got too much room in this upper at all. So it is obviously a riskier fit with the On because if it doesn't work for you, you can't adjust it with the laces or anything like that, as you can with the Nike, but it does fit really well for me and I've had no problems with it so far. So I do like the fit of the Cloudboom Strike LS. That upper has really worked for me, but it's probably one that will divide opinion a bit more than the bit more standard Atom Knit upper on the Nike. On to the run test then, and as I said at the start, these are two of my favourite carbon plate racing shoes available at the moment. I've done over 150k of running in both of these shoes and raced in both of them 2 or 3 times, and I think they're the best carbon plate racing shoes their brands have ever made. Now, I don't think I'll get much disagreement about that when it comes to the On shoe because On hasn't had a great record in making carbon shoes, and I think the Cloudboom Strike LS is a big step forward in what they've had before, along with the standard Cloudboom Strike, which is just a little bit heavier. Obviously with Nike, I think you get a lot more disagreement. A lot of people really like the Alphafly 1 and probably still prefer it to this shoe, and the Vaporfly 2 and the original Vaporfly Next Percent are also very popular shoes, but I like the Alphafly 3 more than all of those shoes. I really like the new continuous midsole design you get on the shoe, which just creates a smoother and faster transition for me as a heel striker. I find that I get that nice level of propulsion from the big stack of ZoomX foam in the shoe, but I get pushed onto the pods more directly and more effectively with the Alphafly 3 and get a really nice responsive toe off as a result. Alphafly has always been positioned more as a marathon shoe, and you've got the extra cushioning here compared to the Vaporfly, even though they have quite similar stack heights. It does feel like a more cushioned shoe, a more springy shoe, and a lot more like ZoomX foam underfoot with giving you that kind of squishy ride feel that you expect from a Nike racing shoe. But now I think it just turns over that a little bit more quickly and has a almost Vaporfly edge to it while still retaining those kind of Alphafly properties. So last year I raced I think a couple of 10Ks, a 5K in it. I did like a few long runs during marathon training in it as well. I did my 10K PB actually last year in the Alphafly 3, and although that was on a friendly course with a big downhill segment in the middle. I think it does show that it is now very much an all-distance racing shoe. I think in the past was positioned more as a marathon shoe. Obviously, definitely has the chops of the marathon given the world records that have been set in this shoe, and I think it excels in particular over those longer distances because of the extra kind of comfort you have here. But it's lighter than past Alphaflys. You've got that snappier transition. I think it's just a great racing shoe for any distance. I think that's all true of the On Cloudboom Strike LS as well. They probably I have a few more reservations about it as a marathon racer. I do think it'll be an excellent marathon shoe, but maybe some will want a slightly higher level of protection. But it was a big surprise to me, this shoe. Like, obviously the upper attracted a lot of attention, which has worked very well for me, as I mentioned in the fit section, but really it's the upgraded midsole you get here compared to past On shoes that make this a special and impressive racing shoe. It's not as soft as the Alphafly, you don't get as much sink in and squish for sure, but you've got a really lightning fast turnover, then a really responsive feel off the toes, and I do think there is enough cushioning and comfort there as well. You've got a big stack of foam here. It isn't as soft as the Nike, but it is still nice and comfortable underfoot. I have raced a half marathon in the On Cloudboom Strike LS, which would probably be my best half marathon ever if they didn't get the course slightly wrong near the end, so it ended up being not a correct distance, but I really liked how it felt in that race. It just felt it was very easy to keep turning my feet over in the second half and maintaining a fast pace. You've got a really fluid ride with a nice bit of punch off the toes, and although you're not getting that big sink in and dramatic bounce that you get from the Alphafly, you are getting a lot of response from that foam for sure. However, I do think you get more comfort from the Alphafly, which I've done 20-mile run in. I think on the On, by the end of the half marathon, I thought, yeah, this is great, it's done very well for me here. Would I take it to full marathon? I think I probably would, but I wouldn't necessarily be as confident in doing so as I would with the Alphafly 3. Obviously the On Cloudboom Strike LS has had some very impressive results in the marathon with On sponsored athletes, but I think maybe for the general runner crowd, not the elites, the extra cush you get from the Alphafly might come into play a little bit as you hit that longer distance. So I did do a short run in both shoes at the same time just to kind of gauge those differences directly, and you definitely get a lot more squish and bounce from the Alphafly. It's got that very noticeable ride all round, partly because it's a much louder shoe. You've got that classic Alphafly slappy sound with the Nike Alphafly 3, which you don't get with the On. But you do, if you are thinking about super shoes and you think that you've got, expect that really big dramatic sink in and punch from the plate and the foam coming out again, you do get that with the Alphafly more so than the On, which you really feel the fast turnover in though. Like, it really feels like a very effective and fast shoe. You're just kind of skipping along the ground, getting that pace back from the midsole foam and the plate in there, but you don't get such a noticeable feeling as you do with the Alphafly, which has that squishier feeling, especially landing at the heel, then pushing forward onto that firmer forefoot, which then really punches you along. So yeah, it is a different ride feel for sure, but a very fast one in both, and the On does feel that little bit more nimble and lightweight, because it is that little bit more nimble and lightweight. Comes to verdict, I do think this is pretty tight, and that's very much something I wouldn't have said in the past about when I was comparing an On carbon shoe and a Nike racing shoe. And it's not because Nike's racing shoes have got worse, it's because On have really come out swinging with the Cloudboom Strike and really, released a top tier carbon racer in my opinion. The On is that little bit lighter, and it does remind me of the Metaspeed Sky Paris from Asics, which is my favourite overall racing shoe at the moment, but I think it's a touch firmer than that shoe, and I'm not sure it's quite as explosive. And there are certainly some big advantages to the Nike, when you're looking at comparing these two shoes. One is the price, which is obviously very surprising. It's very rare that you can say the Alphafly is a cheaper shoe in any comparison, but it is a fair bit cheaper. The fit is just going to work for more people, probably, I think, just off the peg, because you've got this adjustable upper with laces, which just makes it a bit of a safer choice compared to the On. I really like the upper on the On Cloudboom Strike LS, but it is a slightly riskier fit. And I think the extra cushioning you get from the Alphafly, I think if you're looking at marathons in particular, this is the shoe I'd get. I think it's the more risk-free marathon option. I think it's going to perform incredibly well in a race of that distance. The On, I think, will do as well for lots of people, but you've got that slightly more cushioned feel with the Alphafly, more protective feel, whilst not really losing any pace at all because of the way the foam rebounds and really gives you all that energy back. And then, given the fact that I do think the Alphafly is a fantastic short distance racer as well, I think overall I would give it the win in this versus. It's the shoe I'd pick out of these two, but like I say, they're both fantastic shoes, and if you prefer a slightly more direct and lightweight feel in your racing shoe, then the Cloudboom Strike LS definitely provides that, whereas with the Nike Alphafly 3 you get more of that kind of classic super shoe feel of the big bouncy midsole and loads of kind of protection, whilst also having bags of pace and what is actually still a very lightweight package itself. That's a comparison of the Alphafly 3 and the On Cloudboom Strike LS. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.